Hey everyone, today I'm doing a review of Give Yourself Goosebumps, book number 6, Beware of the Purple Peanut Butter. Now, I'll just say right off the bat, out of all of the shrinking type of stories, this little subgenre within the Goosebumps franchise, where the main character shrinks down to a miniature person, R.L. Stine has a few books in that category. This is by far the most entertaining one. So, in this book, you, as the main character, of course, are going to visit your cousins, and they just moved into a new house, and you play hide and seek with your cousins, and your older cousin Barney is kind of a bully, and the game consists of when he finds you, he beats you up, and so basically you go to your cousin's house and you're forced to play hide and seek with them, and your aunt warns you not to go into the basement because they haven't gone down there yet and cleaned up. It's still filled with a bunch of junk and it might be kind of dangerous. They don't know what's down there. So you go and decide to go into the basement to hide. And while you're down there, you decide that you're hungry all of a sudden and you need to eat something. So you just start looking through an old fridge that's down there. And I will just kind of pause and say right there that this whole setup is very strange and kind of contrived and just very goofy, but it kind of adds to the charm of this book. There's a lot of stuff in here that's just pretty much this entire book is just really goofy, but I think that's what adds to the fun of it. This is just kind of a silly Goosebumps book that you don't take super seriously. It's just fun for being just as goofy and silly as it is. But yeah, anyway, you have a choice. You open up the fridge and there's a piece of chocolate cake, and then there's a jar of what appears to be some kind of jelly or peanut butter, and it's purple. And you have the choice to eat one or the other. And if you eat the chocolate cake, you start growing like huge and you become this really tall, like 100-foot person. And if you eat the purple peanut butter, you shrink down to a miniature person. So yeah, this book was really fun. I really enjoyed this one. Basically, some of the things that can happen if you eat the chocolate cake, the government is pursuing you. You're being chased by tanks and police cars and helicopters. The government thinks you're some kind of alien and they're trying to hunt you down as you're incidentally wrecking havoc on the town and accidentally stepping on people's bicycles, things like that. And another thing that can happen too, without getting too much into detail or spoilers or anything, when you're a giant, is you can join a carnival and become part of their sideshow. And if you eat the purple peanut butter and decide to shrink down to size, then you're basically just trying to survive as a tiny person, and you're fighting off mice and cats and all sorts of creatures. And in both story arcs, you're basically trying to figure out how to revert back to your normal size and stay alive during this entire process. So yeah, both story arcs are very similar. One, you're basically just a giant, and then the other one, you're just a few inches tall or whatever. So, but this is a very entertaining book. I really like this one. I was really surprisingly immersed in it and trying to find those good endings. I believe there's 4 good endings in this book, if I remember correctly. 2 good endings per each story arc. So 2 good endings when you're a tiny person and then a giant, and the rest of them are bad endings. And yeah, that's pretty much the goal of this one. And yeah, this was just a really funny book, honestly. I just had a lot of fun going through and trying to figure it out and trying to find that good ending, and it was really funny, honestly. There was a couple of moments in this book that actually made me chuckle a little bit. And laughing out loud during reading is not something that happens very often for me. But this book did make me chuckle a couple of times. It's just a very cute, charming type of choose your own adventure book. Where this book falls a little bit short for me is it really lacks the horror elements. Of course, that's the biggest thing of these Goosebumps books, but this one doesn't really have much horror to it. It's more of just a fun, light enjoyment kind of read. And some of the endings are a little bit dull. There wasn't really a lot of creativity to them. They just ended very abruptly, and there just wasn't really a lot there. And then my other minor complaint is that some of the choices are left up to chance or are dependent on some factor or another. Like, you don't necessarily get to choose which path you want to go down. I mean, you still can. It's not like you have to play by the rules. An example of this is one choice might ask you to flip a coin, and whether the coin is heads or tails will depend on which path you choose. And then another example of this is how many letters are in your first name, and if it's an even number of letters, then you have to go down this path. If it's an odd number of letters, then you have to turn to that page and go down that path. So yeah, there's just a few choices in here that are kind of like that, and I'm not really a big fan of those because it doesn't let you, the reader, decide where you want to go. So yeah, those sorts of choices are kind of here and there in this series. This isn't the only book to have them. Usually there's not too many of them, though. This one had at least 3 of them, I think. I want to say like 2 or 3. So yeah, it's not like a huge con or anything, but it's just a slight annoyance. I think maybe R.L. Stine just couldn't always think of ideas of how to include like a choice into that story or that moment in the plot, so he just kind of left it up to chance. So yeah, but other than those minor complaints, this was a pretty solid book. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. And as for the story arcs, I think I liked them both equally, to be honest. They were both really good. I think maybe I liked the shrinking arc a little bit better, where you're this tiny person trying to revert back to your normal size. That one was really fun because you're battling these different animals, and at one point you go to get flushed down into like the sewer system, and you're trying to find like just how to get back to normal. And you figure if you go back to the fridge and maybe eat the cake, you'll turn back to normal. But the fridge was taken to the garbage dump, so you have to try to find it as a super tiny person. And just a lot of events along the way that happened leading up to it. Just very amusing stuff. Just this is just a fun read. I don't know what else to say about it. This was just a very entertaining book. Now, I don't think it's one that necessarily has a lot of rereadability value, I guess you could say. It's not one that I'm just going to pick up and read again in the future. And like I said, it doesn't really have those classic horror elements to it like most Goosebumps books. This one is largely just humorous, but it's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I give this book, I kind of wavered between a 3.5 and a 4-star rating on this one. Probably like a 3.75. And like I said in my previous video, I'm sure my ratings for these might change once I read more of the series and compare them to the other books. I might fine-tune my ratings a little bit more and change them. But yeah, this one is kind of like a 3.5 or a 4 stars. But overall, I recommend this one. I think out of the first 5 or 6 books in this series, this one is right up there with the best, along with Trapped in Batwing Hall so far. So yeah, that's my very brief review for this book. I don't really have much else to say about it other than it was a fun time. My rating just got brought down a little bit for it because it doesn't really have a whole lot of depth to it, and it's not really that scary or anything. It's just a fun, enjoyable book. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today, guys. What did you guys think of Beware of the Purple Peanut Butter? Oh, and another thing that's really cool too is this book, not just this one, a lot of the other GYG books as well have this, but this one featured some other Goosebumps references and direct references to the Monster Blood books from the original Goosebumps series, which was really cool. And one thing I do like about these books is they kind of quiz you. Like, some of the choices that you come across in these books are dependent on your knowledge of the Goosebumps series and other Goosebumps books. So yeah, that's just a really cool element that's added to these as well. And this one definitely had a couple of moments in there. So yeah, guys, that's it. Beware of the Purple Peanut Butter. I enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one. And as always, guys, have a great day. Peace.